Welcome all of you watching, and it's great to be with the talented faculty of the College of Engineering today. And it's great to meet some of your family, Kelly. So that's lovely. So we're all facing such a incredibly changed environment, and it's been both difficult and interesting to experience it. But for our viewers and listeners, the first thing I'd like to do is introduce our panelists to you, and so that you know a little bit about them. And so I'll just go in the order that you're in my screen. So Sarah Nenejad, sorry if I got that wrong, Sarah, joined us in 2018. You're a chemical engineer. Tell us about yourself a little bit.
Sure. So it was a great pronunciation. Thank you. You pronounced it correctly. I joined Castle Language in 2018 in chemical engineering department, and so I came from East Coast, New York City, and before I was working as a postdoc at Rutgers University, and then so I saw the post and I knew that it's a great area, and saw lots of potentials here. I applied, and thankfully I got basically accepted. My research mainly is around powder technology, pharmaceutical powders and metal powders, to basically use them in different industries like pharma or additive manufacturing. So it's kind of around multi-phase flow interactions of powders and liquids. I'm glad that I have basically seen different students from different backgrounds at CSULB. So this is something that kind of make it challenging, but also good to work with diverse students here. So I really like it.
Great. Well, it's great to have you with us, Sarah, and thanks for that brief introduction of your many talents. Next, we have Kelly Su, who is I think the most recent, having joined us in 2019 from Stanford and vascular surgery, but in biomedical engineering. So Kelly, tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much. I'm very honored to get a chance today. I joined here in 2019, and at that time I was serving as an adjunct faculty at vascular surgery in Stanford. This position did not have any teaching opportunity. I was mentoring graduate students and medical school students and postdocs, and I had a deep hunger on teaching in the classroom, developing the coursework, got some chance to explore more about the pedagogy in advanced level, and also contribute to diversity and undergrad education. So in that sense, I started applying for a tenure track faculty position, and Cal State Long Beach thankfully provided me a chance to serve as a full-time professor in biomedical engineering. And I've been enjoying every moment since I joined here, thanks to the great colleagues and students and staff members. And the research, what I'm doing, should I say about research too?
Sure, no, go ahead. We're all dying to hear, yeah.
Thank you. So research, what I've been doing is cardiovascular engineering, combining the endovascular surgery, device design, and also cardiovascular disease that we commonly encounter these days. If it is possible to improve the patient's experience in clinical practice with engineering perspective, that's what I've been focusing on.
Fantastic. Well, we are honored to have you here, Kelly, and very lucky that you joined us. So thank you. Next in my in the list on my panels is Mehran Rahmani, who has been here since 2017 in civil engineering. And Mehran, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Provost Jersky, for the opportunity to have this chat with you today. My name is Mehran Rahmani. I joined CSULB in 2017. Prior to that, I was a PhD student at USC campus across the city. And I was working as a professional engineer, civil engineer. My major was structural design engineer in Los Angeles too. So since coming to the US, I was in the area. I knew CSULB since I joined USC because I've had some friends at CSULB, as well as some faculties who were USC alumni. So that was actually one of my dreams to become a faculty in a campus, in Los Angeles area, specifically a teaching campus, because teaching was my main passion. I'm just being very honest. I really love interacting with students. And during pandemic, that was the part that was actually missing a lot. My research is in the area of earthquake engineering and structural dynamics. So I try to make buildings safer in a seismic zone such as California, where there are more active faults. Uh, and if there's time later on, I can tell you a little more about my research and my graduate students. Thank you.
Great. Okay, well, I mean, you couldn't have picked a better place, Miran, to come and do research on earthquakes, that's for sure. So welcome, we're pleased you're here. And two more of you in our little rectangles. Daniel Whistler has been here since 2015, a year before I got here. So thank you for preparing the way for me, Daniel. And Daniel is in mechanical engineering. So tell us about yourself.
Thank you very much, Provost Jersky. I got here from UC San Diego, structural engineering, and I decided where's the nicest beach next to UC San Diego that has
Okay.
a good opening position. And so Long Beach accepted me here, and it's been a great opportunity the past few years, working with students, developing the research areas, as well as working with colleagues and trying to write the next big grants or develop new tools. And so I've been very active with the student organizations as much as I can, as well as their curriculum. But one of my passions also is in engineering research. And what we do is study things as they go faster and they break. So a lot of material science, composites, and aircraft safety.
Fantastic. It's I'm so impressed by, just as we haven't finished because we still have to hear from Yelena, but it's so incredible how deep what you study, what all of you study is, and also how practical. And the applications of deep thinking is to me so characteristic of engineering and why it's so important. But before I go on more philosophical rants, let's hear from Yelena Trajkovic, who's been here since 2018 in our Department of Computer Science. So Yelena.
Thank you very much for introduction and for inviting me to join you this morning. That was a fabulous pronunciation of my name. So you get A+ in my course.
Okay.
So I graduated from UCI, and I actually had a previous career in East Coast as well as assistant professor. And both my husband and I really wanted to go back to Southern California. I also, like Mehran mentioned, was looking for academic position that has significant significant focus on teaching. So that is why I chose Cal State Long Beach. Also, what was motivating me when I came to interview, I figured out that CCS department has such a wonderful potential to grow. And we can really become a focal point of this region. And we have so many opportunities for industrial collaborations with other colleges, with the university and other university in region. And I figured out that that is going to be a fun place to work. And we all need to have this satisfaction for us coming back, about something motivating, something fun in our environment. So I thought that, what better than to put my skills in and help, the department in college be better self and more fun place to work. I have started my research in really computer engineering, but as I moved here, I still keep on working on optical network on chips. So basically that is multi-core processors, but also I want to make the research more positive for our undergraduates. So basically I started working on IoT. And IoT projects can be broken apart and into smaller projects and given to undergraduates. So that is one of more.
And that's Internet of Things for those of us. Right.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That's Internet of Things. That is basically systems that are everywhere and in any domain of our life, and they are also connected to cloud. So we have very interdisciplinary approach to research. Also, for my passion for education, I started basically research in engineering in education, in education in computer engineering and computer science. And I hope to be able to tell you more about it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, Yelena, it's great to hear. And the other common theme that comes across from all of you, and by the way, it includes me, is our passion for teaching. And I have been in the CSU for 30 years. Now I started 30 years ago, and before that in South Africa and at Cornell I also taught, and I have always loved teaching. And if you said to me, I think once I've retired, which is coming up quite soon now, which is the thing I will miss most? It's being in the classroom with students, outside the classroom with students, hearing about their excitements, their challenges. And, one of the things I've always done is looked back at my books, which I've kept from when I was an undergraduate, and I go back and look at my old exams and say, oh yes, I also had trouble with those things because now I know them, but back then it was hard. So learning is difficult, but what a wonderful adventure to do it together with students. So talking of adventures, we've been through this pandemic with completely unexpected different ways of teaching, different ways of managing our classes. How has that been for you, Sarah? I mean, for example, or any of you, how has the alternate modes of instruction, we of course have an acronym for it now, AMI, like good academics, we make acronyms for everything. But how has it been for you personally?
So in mid-March last year, when they told us that the campus is going to be shut down, so that was like a shock to me because of the nature of the class that I was teaching. So I am the main instructor for senior design course in chemical engineering, and so when I heard that it should be like alternative mode of instruction and I'm not going to be basically interacting with students face to face, it was like kind of shocking. But thanks to that, in those 2 weeks that we were off, like I was just thinking of, okay, how I can interact with the students, because they have to build things and they have projects, so that is, and they work in a group. So this was really challenging at the beginning, but thanks to all the workshops that I attended several workshops on campus, and those were really helpful. So it was challenging in terms of not being able to see students and interact with them face to face, especially for that course. And the way that I kind of adjusted myself was that, I always go with video at the beginning of the Zoom session, just to, see students and tell them, if you want, you can also turn on your videos, talk about, several things that happened to me during the past week before having the class, and kind of trying to make the connection with the students. And then, of course, I will be more flexible with them, class, like in comparison to the other semesters, so a little bit more flexible with students, because I know that it will be, challenging for them too. Yeah. But kind of, I learned a lot through that, because I think the future would be kind of, I think we are moving towards that even without pandemic.
Well, I mean, certainly there's going to be some things we learn that we're going to take forward, and some things that can only be done face to face or in person. But yeah, I think, you know, of course, you put your finger on education is about relationships. And so the question is, can you establish relationships on Zoom? And somewhat to everyone's surprise, we can. I mean, it may not be as good, may be different, but yes, we can. Mehran, how about you? How have you done that?
Right, yeah. So similar to what Sarah did, I also took some of these techniques during those, I mean, brought up some of those techniques. One of them, I mean, I was actually teaching a lab. I'm the coordinator of a lab that we require to make samples in the lab, break samples in the lab. So the only way that I could carry that to the end of spring semester was to go to the lab with my other colleague and have her, you know, record me doing every single step. And then I try to be very active and try to go from, you know, different location in the lab and try to kind of give that feeling to the students at home when they're watching on Zoom. So that was for the lab. And my other classes, I try to take advantage of Beachboard as much as possible, all the tools that are there, both for the assessment purposes as well as, you know, sharing files with the students. So I try to adopt myself as quick as possible so students don't feel that huge, you know, a gap between the in-person classes to the online classes. I think spring went pretty well or finished pretty well for me. And then it came fall and so on, you know, some, you know, new techniques that we incorporated to ensure that students, you know, take what they should take out of the class.
Yeah, it's, I mean, when I look back and say, gosh, it's been a year, and in some ways it feels like, you know, 3 weeks. And in others, it kind of feels I've been in this for 10 years already, but it's anyway, amazing. Kelly, what about you? Similar, different?
Yeah, definitely this was good or bad experience. I'll say both. In the bad side, it was the risk for sure for everyone. So I miss my time interacting with everyone in the classroom and so the students, and this significant sense of loneliness and solitude makes students really hard to manage themselves. Even though this teaching is ongoing, sitting inside their room or open space in their house for 8 hours to 10 hours is something that we cannot keep it going all the time. So it was the time to see, kind of go over all of those difficulties. But we are also engineers, so engineers start thinking based on the problem. And it was a chance to recognize the problem that we had based on the classical type of education. Maybe this is a time that we can switch into the hybrid system in the future. In some content, it is better to be taught virtual, but some contents must be done in person. So it was a good chance to think about those clear distinctions between the content and the deliverable. So I will say that was what I learned during the past year.
Yes, and I mean, you know, your focus or your initial thought about just the mental health of our students applies equally well to the mental health of ourselves. And but as you say, maybe engineers, human beings have an innate drive to solve problems, so that has helped us, but it's not been easy. Daniel, you have some experience in this, actually. Some of your interest has been in developing classes like this. So How has this been for you?
Certainly a challenge. Well, you know, you do have a little bit of experience. The sudden onslaught of all the challenges all at once makes,
Yes.
you know, training a little difficult. But for the most part, it's been, I guess you'd say, a team effort with the college and the department supporting some of the things we requested. They may have seen, you know, kind of out of the ordinary at the time. You're buying fabric from the store so you can make a green screen, or you're buying 6 cameras instead of 1 just because you have an idea that might be worth trying to keep the focus going. And I guess the nice part is during that initial scramble, everybody was, for the most part, understanding. It was hard for everybody to suddenly say, we were talking to our friends last week and now we're sitting in front of our computer screens and we're training them how to use Zoom or not Zoom or some other techniques. And during that period, it was a lot of pushing a lot of buttons and finding out what worked best. But through it all, and then the summer training and then the fall training, I think the community really came together. Of course, there were some hiccups at times, but for the most part, the things we were working on all this time have now been launched on a grander scale. And it'd just be kind of hard to go 100% back to everything being in person. For example, I don't think anyone's complaining about parking on campus right now.
Right, that's true, and yeah, you know, it's amazing how I guess how we all pull together in an emergency, and sort of, you know, one of the things that impressed me and of course thousands of others, including our students, is how you, the faculty, were able to pivot on a dime. And as you say, you know, one week you were teaching in regular ways in classes and labs, and the next week here you were at home suddenly teaching. And you know, that ability of all of you to do that without skipping a beat is hugely impressive. So I mean, you know, take a chance to pat yourselves on the back because you deserve it. Do you, so Yelena, do you have sort of have a story to tell about teaching online, or you know, something that amazing that happened with a student?
I think I was the luckiest one because for some reason I decided in spring 2019 to take ATA's course about how to flip or how to teach online and hybrid courses. And one of
we should get advice from you on investing in the stock market. It sounds like you have good intuition.
I think so. You know, I should probably have a second career in that.
Okay.
Good idea. So maybe we share profits. Anyways, what I did is by fall 2019, I actually took one of my classes, and because I teach both class and lab, I actually flipped the lab. And each lab had, you know, videos, PDFs, so on and so forth. So basically, we could just do hands-on work in the lab. That came so handy in spring 2020. So did what other thing helped me is that before coming here, I lived for 18 months in Mountain View, and I had lots of people who actually started closing about 10 days before us. So I kind of figured out what is going to happen. And on Monday of that week, I think it was March 9, I started distributing my FPGA kits to my students saying like, you better hold on to this. And on Wednesday, that was 11th, when the announcement came around 9 o'clock, I had 8 o'clock class, and I remember it so vividly. I stood in front of my class and I said, we have to talk about this because it is a good chance that this is coming. So please don't panic because of this experience. I know what I'm doing. Of course, not fully, but you are going to be taken care of and we are going to make it work. Mm. And, you know, by 9:15, one of my students took his phone and he said, we are closing tomorrow. I'm like, we are prepared, don't worry. And then my other class that was around 11 o'clock, we had the same kind of conversation. The only thing that kind of surprised me in this part, I mean, there were some technical nuances and things like that that we work. I knew that there will be more work, but I was surprised how that exploded. So in that spring, I think I usually have 2 times 1 hour 15-minute labs. I added about 2 to 3 hours of extra time to take demos, to troubleshoot things, and even nowadays sometimes that happens.
Yes, I think that is a remarkable discovery, and I think I shared it. I don't know if you know, but before I became dean at Cal Poly Pomona, I was at Macquarie University in Sydney, teaching statistics, and they had quite a big online component for off-campus people who would take statistics courses, and I had to learn how to do it. And again, it was interesting. I found ways of meeting the students and online. But what amazed me was exactly what Yelena said, was how much extra stuff, extra work I had to think of to, okay, well, normally I would do this in a class, but how do I do that when I'm not in a class? And it always was much more work than I thought. I mean, at some point, it sort of, at some point, there was an activation energy barrier, and then once I had broken through it, it sort of did tend to tail down. But the activation energy needed to get up there was pretty intense. Okay, enough of my analogy. But
I just wanted to mention that it was interesting. I think it was in fall. My students usually have an issue with a very, very simple circuit that is called multiplexer. Basically, that is a switch. You choose between multiple inputs. And then I said, hold on. And then I ran down and I took a little multiplexer that we all use right now in our TVs, which is like 2 HDMI inputs and 1 HDMI out, and said, have you seen this? Where's we have it? That's multiplexer. Let's go and break it down into digital circuit. I would have never been able to do that in classroom.
Yeah, no, there are definitely some things that I'm sure you are going to take into the post-pandemic university. And, actually, I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, one of the questions was, what do you think the future is going to be like? And I mean, of course, you are the future. I am rapidly becoming the past. But what do you think the future of a comprehensive university like ours, College of Education, what do you think it's going to look like? I mean, I know it's a big question, but Kelly, Daniel, anyone want to start, kick off? Kelly.
Maybe I can start. So
Sure.
It is a big question, and I thought about the future of College of Engineering, thanks to Juliet. But in a broader perspective, I guess starting from maybe this year or next year, we will try to, I guess, think about the hybrid system gradually, or maybe not, depending on the situation. Either way, I noticed that all the faculty and staff, they are kind of combining their force together. And the thing that I felt that our future is bright, that we were connected all the time. So I was very appreciative to all the provost message or president's message. And there were a lot of situations in the past year. I hate thinking back about 2020, but every time when I said, okay, something is happening here, in the next day, I got an email, at least from the campus or college or department. So that sense of connection I valued a lot, and that will be also very important as a future component, because eventually we are all social animal and we are we are feeling lonely every day. So
That's
in the
true.
future, it sounds like a small thing, but I want to emphasize that it is not as small as we think. And I would like to see that that moment is keep continuing in the future, in the broader size too. Dan, would you like to share your thoughts maybe?
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
no, I think that's great, Kelly, because I mean, you know, if you think about it, even our name, college, a college is a group of people, you know, put together for a purpose. And yes, you know, maybe we do some thinking individually or work by ourselves, but really getting together is how we become a university. But Dan,
Very true.
yeah.
Oh, thank you. I would like to think of it more that, you know, even I sometimes look at YouTube to learn tutorials about certain things. And it's, you know, there's no reason why we can't pivot to those things. You know, a CSU wide or maybe even multi-university wide set of courses that people can watch online for where they need to. And the university itself just transforms itself into that hub where you come for not necessarily lab or anything like this, but you come to meet the professors on the campus and discuss, you know, what you've learned, and that will be your assessment. It's not a test. You just come in there and you work with them for a week, and then they decide, yeah, you're ready to go. You know, after you've run through all the training, you come in with your report and so forth. And I think that would actually open up the university quite a bit more. There's no reason why CSU, Long Beach, or CSU in general is limited to California. Now you can have education across the world. And eventually when they, you know, we travel there, they travel here, they can get their degree in whatever home country they are from our faculty here. And it just brings the world, you know, together. The internet kind of revolutionized. I remember when I was growing up, long distance phone calls were very expensive, and it was just really hard to keep in touch. They still are, right? And it was hard to keep in touch with family. The internet kind of changed that. And I think this pandemic showed us that we can, you know, abruptly, but with more time, make a better, bigger platform for reaching the world's population and providing them the quality education that they seek.
Yes, you know, well, it's so fascinating what you just said, Daniel, because, you know, yesterday in the Senate, we were talking about GE and other issues. We were talking about history. And what's fascinating to me is how old things come back again, but in different ways. So you just described, you know, the Oxford or Cambridge model of, you know, you take books and you go and study, and then every month you come and have tea or sherry with your tutor, and you get guidance, and then you go away and read again. But all we've done is kind of replaced the books with computers or the internet, and then the same thing. But ultimately, education happens at the intersection of human beings discussing problems or concerns or solutions, and so I think things stay the same and yet they change. It's quite interesting. Um, well, fascinating discussion. Mehran, anything? What are your views on the
I
future?
think, yeah, I echo what Daniel and Kelly mentioned. I think the effort that ATS, we really should mention that the effort that ATS put during summer was phenomenal to educate a large group of our faculties and show them what tools are available to us. Similar to what Yelena did in spring 2019, I started in fall 2018, converting some of my exams to Beachboard quizzes. And those are quizzes, not final exam. I would say for one of my classes, I have 5 quizzes throughout the semester rather than having one midterm. So I started the process, and I was contacting people within the department and ATS. I noticed that not many people are using Beachboard, you know, to a high extent. But right now we're totally different. I think some of our classes in the future will stay hybrid or online for sure. I think the rooms, the high flex rooms that right now ATS is working hard to put together, those high flex rooms will be in use for the next decade. We will have students taking course remotely in the future. So I think this pandemic kind of lifted us, or you know, made us better distance education, basically, institution. And I think that this is a great, basically bright side to this hard work of ATS and faculties.
Right. And yeah, I agree. I mean, certainly I, applaud the efforts of ATS and staff and of course the faculty to make this work. I believe that, with the latest HERF money and CARES money, we should be able to get at least 60 high flex rooms, and we're working to get over 100. So, I mean, when we come back, and we are coming back, we'll rely on it, you as faculty will be able to have a lot more flexibility in how you choose to deliver your curriculum, your classes. Again, no forcing. Nobody is forcing anybody to do anything, but if you wish to explore, I think we'll have much more resources. So, that is exciting. Sarah, what sort of the future for you? How does it look?
So honestly, like basically, I agree with all the colleagues that mentioned that we have to basically be able to adjust ourselves for a hybrid mode of teaching. And because I personally think whenever I always look for challenge. In life, if everything is normal, I become bored eventually. So I think, pandemic was not a good thing that happened, but when I look at it on a bright side, I think it made us think a little bit deeper to how we can adjust ourselves, like if we want to have like a kind of distant teaching or distant education, and this is kind of pushing us forward towards that direction, which I think eventually would be the future. Because if you look at the bright side, it will be safe. You don't need to drive to campus. You can be another side of the world and still get educated in California. So if you look at all of these together, I think in future we should be able to do that. If not, then our campus would be behind in comparison to the other campuses. So from the bright side, this pandemic actually pushed us forward, I think, towards that direction. That would be the future.
I mean, it seems to me again that we should be able to do both, and hopefully we can do both. So in other words, we know, and I'm confident, given what I know of the faculty in the College of Engineering and actually across the campus, that whatever we develop will be unique to Long Beach. It'll have the Long Beach brand, if you want to talk about marketing, but it will be, it will probably be a mixture. And change is sometimes very threatening to people. And I mean, all of us, are in that mixture where, yes, we want to see new and exciting things, but we also want to stick with the safe and familiar. And I mean, speaking for myself as a statistician, I remember when I was at UC San Francisco, I was the only faculty member that still used chalk. And the students used to come and watch me writing on the board with chalk. And in fact, I had to buy my own chalk because I had stopped buying. So, and yet, that was comforting for me. It was amusing, but also you do new things. So how do you work with that, the sort of combination, the threat of change, the excitement of change? Yelena, how?
I keep telling my students, myself, my children, my colleagues, we really need to embrace growth mindset. And in growth mindset, you're going to fail. And each of the happy mistakes that we make is something that we learn. So for me, this growth mindset is actually also shown now in the classroom, because we really, really want to motivate our students to get engaged. And they're really scared and they are not comfortable. And they are not comfortable even now when they are, hidden behind, close the shutter on their camera and they have just some cute picture or name. They are not going to go out and, expose themselves. So I really love, flipped class. My flipped class became completely flipped, not just lab. Last fall, I actually flipped the class as well. I have something like 25 formative quizzes that we do, every Monday and Wednesday and so on and so forth. And what I think we need to do is motivate the students to embrace that. Our students come from very, very different backgrounds. We have huge diversity. We have over 50% of our students are first generation, and they don't know how to study. So I think we need to widen our perspective to reach more, but also to reach deeper in a way to kind of try to catch those students who are really having difficulties. And I started my class that is flipped with a video of why is flipped from YouTube. Why is flipped something that is good? And I keep telling him, I promise you, I'm not asking you to do a single bit more than what you would do if I would teach and you would do your homework after. So I think we need to educate students in that way to embrace this growth mindset and to show that we are struggling with it.
Yeah. I mean, I loved your phrase, by the way, happy mistakes.
That is a citation, and I'll have to figure out who is this from. I heard it from one of my student assistants, but that is from someone famous. So I'll get back.
All right, we will attribute it in due course to the correct source, like good academics. But it's a wonderful phrase. Yes, I think when I think back on my experience as a learner, I was a terrible learner, and it took me a long time to figure out how to learn properly. And it would have been so incredible. I mean, of course, I had some good professors, some professors who were not so good, but what an amazing responsibility it is for us to say, here you are a talented group of students, you should be able to learn. How can I help you learn? And as you say, Elena, the sort of talking can be entertaining for me, but it also needs to be instructive for the students. It's a very interesting concept. Kelly, you're smiling. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
So I was smiling because there were some incidents in my classroom, the Zoom classroom. So I totally agree with Elena that the mindfulness or embracing the current situation or happiness is really important. And I thought the same way. So the one thing that I did was turning the YouTube music during the break or at the end of the break, so that students hear the music and come back to the classroom. And one day I was just curating based on my preference, but I asked the students, do you want to play anything? And one student just shared the YouTube link, and when I played it, there was the most hilarious music video that I've ever seen. So all this Zoom class was full of laughter, and they said it's so funny. So I was recalling that moment. That's why I was smiling. So it's remarkable that students try to find some wit and humor during this situation too. And I feel like this is something that we should encourage too in the classroom.
Yeah, well, it's precisely that human connection that makes learning easier, isn't it? That kind of, oh, my professor is human. She can smile, she can laugh, she can enjoy our music, whatever it is. Sarah, yes, no, same kinds of thing.
I totally agree, because I think the first thing that usually when the students are sitting like in front of you, they think that, okay, you are another person, so these normal human emotions will not happen to you. So, but the funny thing that happened when I was teaching like spring 2020, so there I was teaching and then writing on a on my iPad, and then there was a big spider coming on my iPad because I was sitting outside and I started to shout. And then the students were all watching. I said, guys, I'm afraid of spiders. And then, the whole class was just laughing and they were always telling me that, okay, what did you do with the spider? I said, okay, I just kicked it out. But the thing is that they were just shocked that, okay, our teacher should not be afraid of a spider. So, okay, guys, I hate spiders. So it was really kind of funny, but the next semester when I had class with them, they still remember that, and I said that, okay, normal things happen. This is one of the challenges of online classes.
Well, but isn't it incredible how lucky that is, that happens, because it humanizes you for the students. It puts them in a position where there can be a relationship of sort of mutuality, and you kind of, as a teacher, I always wished for those kinds of things. And I'll tell you a story which I did in a lecture. And I was teaching, believe it or not, 500 students in the lecture. And I used to take coffee into the lecture, and it had a, paper cup and a plastic and on top, and I lifted it up and the plastic came off and I poured the coffee straight onto my shirt. And everyone burst into laughter. And after that, the class was so much better. And, it was still a big lecture and all those horrible things of big lectures, but it was so much better. And, just to see, that I'm clumsy. But Meran, we're all smiling, and it's sort of such a joyous thing, thinking of all the ways we've connected. But your thoughts, your comments?
Yeah, I didn't have as funny experience as Kelly and Sarah, but once for my graduate class, we came back from a break and my speaker was muted. I usually share a document camera that projects my desk where I can write on paper. So I started teaching. After 10 minutes, I turned my head. I noticed there are 100 messages in the chat box that you didn't share your cameras. I was teaching for myself with passion for about 10 minutes to come back, and these things happen. But other than that, it was just connecting with the students, as other colleagues mentioned, that sense of community, and that laughter actually creates that sense of community, that you're part of the community. This is a class, we're all cohorts, not just names being connected through wires. That's very important and gives motivation to the learners.
It sure does. And I mean, I look at the time, because you reminded me I should look at something else other than you. I see we're sort of running out of time, but I want to ask you all just one quick question to finish. And sort of one thing you've done for yourselves, a hobby, an interest, a new thing. What one thing have you done that you want to share with our students, our listeners? So, Daniel?
Well, with all the new Zoom technologies and cameras, I've taken up photography.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Yelena?
That's the hardest question that you're asking.
I know.
No, I didn't start doing, what is this, homemade sourdough starter and bread. I'm just trying to make, some semblance of sanity with two kids in elementary school. I start and stop many things. So I collected sea glass on the beach. I painted my benches outside. I ordered my first paint by numbers kit. So I'm going to do oil on canvas painting. It's going to be done after my tenure probably, but Pilates, yoga, breathing, everything in just tiny little amounts as time permits.
Okay, boy, great answer there. Kelly?
Lego. I started Lego again.
Right.
Yeah, playing with the blocks helped me soothe, and my daughter likes it too. So now my 4-year-old daughter is pretty used to playing with the 3,000 pieces of Lego with me. And we are just tied to it for a whole week. And that, I guess that's gonna keep going for a while.
Oh, great. How are the soles of your feet with the Lego?
Sometimes it hurts.
There's nothing, you step on it and
yeah. Yeah, and vacuum cleaner issue also. Some of my vacuum bag has a little piece of Lego and I cannot pull it out. So I blame my child.
That's an engineering problem and colleagues can help you with that. Great.
Indeed.
Yeah. How about you, Sarah?
Practicing new languages with Duolingo app. So.
Oh, okay. Wow. Which ones?
So, before coming to this United States, I was living in Canada, at Montreal. So I was basically learning French, and since I came to US, I didn't speak that much French. So I decided, okay, this is a good time to, remind myself of the language. So I'm just practicing that Duolingo.
Great. Okay. And what about you, Mira?
Yeah, for me, I'm not sure if I can call it a hobby, but last year during the campus closure, my son was 11 months old. Oh. And since then, it's 1 year that we live together basically at home. And I'm spending time almost every day with him. The other prior to that, of course, I was on campus 3-4 days a week, and I couldn't see him grow, but I can see him in every minute that he's growing, and that's very enjoyable, I should say, but at the same time, very challenging to teach with a toddler.
Yeah, I can imagine, but what a privilege and what a joy. So, I mean, at this age, if you think of the marginal increase as you watch is enormous, and you'll look back on this, I predict, in 10 or 20 years' time as an incredible privilege. But luckily, we as human beings forget the pain, the challenges, and we remember the joys. So that's my prediction. Yelena asked me about what about my hobby, and well, I have a few. I mean, one of the things we've done together is we've developed a painting fetish. So we've been painting our decks. We went and chose the color. I bought a sprayer. We got all kinds of excited about that. And, it's sort of just interesting to do things that are non-intellectual and so we've enjoyed that. We've been working in our garden. Everything is growing. It's sort of, very satisfying, and getting my fingers dirty in the soil is really nice. So yeah, you do things that don't require you to go out, and but look forward to doing a lot more of it after June, of course. I won't have things. Yeah, so I mean, as you can imagine, these are actually new glasses, and the reason I have new glasses is because one of the painting issues is that my old glasses have little spots of paint all over them from before I became proficient with a sprayer. I was sprayed myself as well, but anyway, it's been fun. It has been wonderful to speak to you all, and really I can end by saying thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you have done in this incredibly difficult time and challenging time. But I know, as I said before, the future of the university is in great hands, your hands, and I know you'll take Long Beach forward to great heights. I look forward to it, and watching you and watching your successes. So thank you, and thanks to our audience for watching. And I'm sure you'll agree that with people like these in charge, the future of our students and our faculty are in good shape. So thanks, everyone.